3, 2, 1. Mark.
Mark.
Welcome to The Weird Shack, the podcast that explores the weird and spooky. I'm your host, Ollie Tobbles, with my co-hosts, Reeski.
What's on?
Siege.
Hey, how's it going?
And Jordan with Stick.
Sup, shackers?
And today we're talking about cults.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so who's going first?
I will go first, Oliver.
Alright, dude, do it. Go.
I'm going to be talking about the Bohemian Grove. So, Bohemian Grove is a campground at 20601 Bohemian Avenue, Monterey, California. And it belongs to a San Francisco-based gentlemen's club known as the Bohemian Club. In mid-July each year, Bohemian Grove hosts a more than 2-week encampment of some of the most prominent men in the world. The all-male club's membership includes artists and musicians, as well as many prominent business leaders, government officials, former US presidents, senior media executives, and people of power. The club members are allowed to access the grounds when club-wide events aren't being held. During these visits, members can bring spouses, family, and friends. However, all minors and female guests must be off the property by 9 or 10 p.m. Which is interesting little detail. The club motto is "Weaving spiders come not here," which implies that outside concerns and business deals, aka like networking with each other, are to be left outside. However, business discussions do occur despite that motto, and important political and business deals have been developed in the Grove. A particular famous meeting that occurred there was the planning of the Manhattan Project, which led to the atomic bomb being created. So it's kind of a big deal that happened there. And this is pretty funny. Former President Richard Nixon, who we probably know best from like Futurama.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we're not Americans. He made the following comment in regards to Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove, which I attend from time to time, is the most faggy goddamn thing you could ever imagine. Which is, that's a very Richard Nixon thing to say about it. The tradition of gathering began as a send-off for a founding member who was moving away, but became a yearly tradition afterwards, and members purchased land in the area, gradually expanding the perimeter. Not long after the club's establishment by newspaper journalists, it was commandeered by prominent San Francisco-based businessmen who provided the financial resources necessary to acquire further land and facilities at the Grove. They still retained the Bohemians name because the artists and musicians, they continue to come and entertain international members and guests. So despite the fact it's called the Bohemian Club, like a Bohemian is like a musician or an artist, like an artistic person, and most of the members aren't they aren't artists or musicians or anything. That's just kind of the name of the club, but there are still some musicians and artists. As the club is private, only members and their guests may enter. Some known guests include politicians and notable figures from other countries. So sometimes, like a political guest will come over, from a different country, and they sort of take them to this club as like a way of like showing them, what America's like, I guess. Sleeping quarters or camps are also scattered throughout the Grove. There were 118 camps as of 2007. These camps, which are frequently patrilineal, which is basically the male line of the family, they tend to keep in the club. So like they're passed on the club from like father to son type thing. they are the principal means through which high-level business and political contacts and friendships are formed. So the most well-known camps, I don't know if you've ever heard of them. One of them's called the Hillbillies. That's one of the camps. And probably the most well-known member of the Hillbillies is George W. Bush and his dad. So George Bush Sr. and Jr. are both members of the Hillbillies.
Okay.
Which is interesting. There's also another group called they're called the Caveman Camp, and Herbert Hoover, who was the 31st president, was a member of that club. And there's another one called Owl's Nest, who Ronald Reagan was a member, so another president. Those are probably the most notable ones that we'd like recognize people, the presidents. But there's a lot of presidents in this club. It's interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Clearly, each camp has a captain who, among his jobs, are the upkeep of the camp facilities. Basically, this place is ridiculously huge for like this private camp. And they have like so many like they've got these different places for recreation and entertainment, right? So they've got the Grove stage, which is an amphitheatre with seating for 2,000 people. It's used primarily for the Grove play, which I'll talk about later, on the last weekend of the Midsummer Encampment. It extends up the hillside, and it's also home to the second largest outdoor pipe organ in the world. There you go. There's the Field Circle, which is a bowl-shaped amphitheatre used for the mid-encampment, for like musical comedy and stuff like that. They have go on there. They've got a campfire circle, which has a campfire pit in the centre of the circle, surrounded by carved redwood benches. There's like a big redwood forest there as well, as part of the Bohemian Grove. So there's a lot of stuff with redwoods going on there. There's a museum stage, which is a semi-outdoor venue with a covered stage. Lectures and small ensemble performances tend to happen there. They've got a dining circle, which seats approximately 1,500 diners at the same time. Pretty crazy. There's a clubhouse, and it was designed by Bernard Maybeck in 1903. He's a notable architect. And it was completed on the bluff overlooking the Russian River as a multi-purpose dining, drinking and entertainment building. And it was the site of the Manhattan Project meeting. That's where that happened. It happened in the clubhouse. And this is probably the most notable thing about the Bohemian Grove. There's the Owl Shrine, which is next to this huge artificial lake. And that's basically where they do this this special ritual called the cremation of care, which again I'll go into a bit more detail about later. And it takes place on the first Saturday of every encampment, so they go there and they do this big tradition. There's also like they have musical performances go on there and stuff like that, and sometimes they have like people come and do talks to like the whole group. People that they've had come and do these talks include astronauts, business leaders, CIA directors, future presidents and former presidents. Right, so yeah, it's basically this club of the elite. But you know, so far you're probably thinking, oh okay, this is like some weird gentleman's club, but it does have these very weird culty elements, which I'll go into a bit more now. So its notable symbols that this club has, its patron saint is John of Nepomuk, who, according to legend, suffered death at the hands of a Bohemian monarch rather than disclose the confidential secrets of the Queen. A large wood carving of St. John in cleric robes, with his index finger over his lips, stands at the shore of the lake in the Grove, symbolising the secrecy kept by the Grove's attendees throughout its long history. That's a big part of this club, is that whatever happens there you can't talk about outside of the club. So there's lots of like interviews with members where they try and get information out of them, and just they won't say anything about it, basically. Since the founding of the club, the Bohemians Grove mascot has been an owl, symbolising wisdom. A 30-foot, 9 meters, hollow owl statue made of concrete over steel supports stands at the head of the lake. So that's this big owl that's by the lake there. And it was designed by a notable sculptor, constructed in the late 1920s. Since 1929, the owl shrine has served as the backdrop of the yearly cremation of care ceremony. So this owl is very symbolic of the Grove, basically. And the cremation of care ceremony, it's basically a play. And they get members of the club to play these different characters in this play. And it's really weird. There's a part of it where they set off a bunch of fireworks and shit, like, all over this owl statue. It's, like, ridiculous. Like, the amount of effort goes into this weird play. But basically, it's supposed to be, like, they've described it as, like, a catharsis, like a way to, like, let go of, like, the issues of the real world, right? That's why they do it quite early on. It's supposed to be this thing like, oh, we do this to get all of that shit out, and then we can just have a good time here in the Grove, where women aren't allowed after 9, 10.
And minors.
And minors. So they also do this other one called the Grove play, which is like, so if the cremation of care is like the start of like this camping period, the end of it is this Grove play, and it's a large scale musical theatrical performance, and it involves about 300 people, including chorus cast, stage crew and orchestra. It was first performed in 1902. During the war years, 1943 to 1945, the stage was dark, so like nothing happened there. In 1975, an observer estimated that the Grove play costs between $20,000 and $30,000, an amount that would be as high as $143,000 in today's dollars. So every year, they spend that amount of money on this ritual, which is just for them. You know, it's crazy. It's weird to think about. So not many people have been in the Bohemian Grove. I think this is maybe like what's people have probably heard about. Do you know who Alex Jones is?
Any of us? No.
Yeah.
Not a clue, unfortunately.
Don't ring a bell, no.
No, he's he's basically this really crazy dude, and he does like he's basically like a big believer in a lot of like conspiracy theories and stuff like that. There's lots of clips of him. There's a very noticeable one where he shouts about they're putting chemicals in the water that are turning the frogs gay. There's like this clip of him shouting, "They're turning the frogs gay!" like really angry. And it's like such nonsense. But basically he managed to get on site while this thing was going on. And he was like the first person to ever film footage of it. Him and his cameraman, a guy called Mike Hansen, like they came in there pretending to be members, and they filmed the cremation of care. But Alex Jones, God knows how, but he interpreted this as ritual sacrifice. So I guess he at some point has said that they were like basically sacrificing children to like this owl god. That's what he believed was happening.
The fuck? Okay.
But despite the fact that he like basically just like spoke a bunch of bullshit on it, he did actually get some like good footage that came out of it. I'm not gonna like play it for us here because I'm trying to keep it good for people who are just listening to the audio.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to watch some funny stuff, there's like basically a whole like documentary Alex Jones did about it, and he's such a ridiculous guy. It's so hilarious just to watch him talk about stuff. So that happened like in 2000 when he did that, and then in 2002 there's this guy. He's 30. He was 36-year-old at the time. Richard McCaslin, he's called, right?
Okay.
And he thinks he's like, well, he's dead now, but he thought that he was like a modern day superhero, right? So
Okay.
he broke into the Bohemian Grove. He went in there like in the night, then he infiltrated it. And it's really dumb. He basically goes in there, and he's gone in there in the winter, by the way, so there's no one there. The only people that are there are the security. So he goes in there and he tries to like what he was planning to do was to set the owl statue on fire because he thought it was made of wood. At this time, like, not a lot was known about it, I guess. He went in there and he's like, oh shit, it's not made out of wood, it's concrete. Also, he's heavily armed, by the way. He's got a bunch of guns on him. He's got like, I think he had like literally like grenades and shit on him as well. He had a pump action shotgun. No, a pump action rifle / shotgun hybrid.
Oh, okay.
A 45 caliber handgun.
Ooh.
A crossbow.
Yep.
A 2-foot long sword. A knife. And he also had a fireworks mortar tube, which is what he's going to use to like set stuff on fire. So he brings in, no one's there. He tries to set fire to this owl statue. Doesn't work because it's made of concrete. And then he's just like, okay, I guess I'm just going to kick the door into a cabin and sleep here. Which is what he does. He just breaks into a random cabin. He sleeps there overnight. And then the next morning he's like, fuck this. So he goes around and he starts setting fire to stuff. He sets fire to the empty banquet hall, which in turn triggered an alarm. And then one of the caretakers came and found him. And was like, what are you doing? You know, and then he basically pointed his gun at this guy. And then they had to phone the police. The police came in and they arrested this guy.
Why didn't he shoot the owl statue?
I don't know, man. He wanted to set fire to it because he thought it was made out of redwood. Because like the whole area is associated with redwood. I guess there was this common believed thing that the statue itself was made out of a redwood tree.
I guess it's more like impacting if it's burnt instead of shot at.
Yeah, that's I guess that's what he was going for, because he believed that they were literally doing child sacrifice here. Yeah. He'd actually talked to Alex Jones before he went there. He went down to this thing that because like Alex Jones has like a radio thing as well that he hosts, and he went down there and spoke with him. And to get like all the inside details, basically, like, oh, what's going on there, what they doing. And also, I didn't mention the fact that he's actually dressed up as his superhero costume the whole time as well. The superhero who he called the Phantom Patriot. If you want to look up pictures of the Phantom Patriot, it's pretty hilarious. He's got like this fucking like jumpsuit on with like a skull mask and shit, and he's got like he's got like the Phantom Patriot written on his chest.
That is amazing.
This guy, he's an absolute. This guy's a fucking legend. But not for the right reasons. He's just fucking crazy. And late, like after all this stuff with that happened, he got put in prison. And then when he came out, he went to like when Barack Obama was doing like a speech, and he basically went there and he was accusing them all of being reptoids. He was like screaming at him like, "You're reptoids!" and just having a go at him. But yeah, he passed away in like 2018. But
right,
yeah, what a crazy guy. What an interesting life. He just had these various different superhero. He's a crazy guy. I think like when I was researching this, I wasn't expecting to learn about him, but yeah, he's pretty crazy. So yeah, that's pretty much the Bohemian Grove for you. Still to this day, not a lot is known about what happens in these meetings and these secret stuff. No one's ever talked about it, and there's a lot of dodgy going on there, because I mean, the amount of presidents that were like members before they became president and stuff like that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of weird shit going on there, you know, and there's like a lot of like notable like scientists, inventors, stuff like that. People, and literally the people who came together to discuss making the atomic bomb. It's like, it's crazy to think about that all this stuff goes on. But I just love Richard Nixon. being like, yeah, I go there sometimes. It's really fucking gay. It's just a bunch of guys doing plays.
Poor guy.
Yeah, that is.
And I feel like that's very telling of like what this actually is. I think it's just a bunch of guys who get together and do these weird plays and shit.
Yeah.
It does sound quite a bit weird.
Gay.
Yeah, it does sound a bit gay, yeah. But yeah, that's the Bohemian Grove for you. I think I've mentioned it in a previous podcast, but I thought I'd go into a bit more detail and do a bit more research about it.
Yeah.
But nah, if you want to have a good time, go and watch some Alex Jones rambling about Bohemian Grove or just anything.
Yeah.
Really.
When you said about his name and asked if we knew him, I didn't know him from name, but after looking at who he was, I do know him.
Mhm.
I've seen some of his other random
Yeah.
stuff. He's quite an interesting individual.
Yeah, at one point you tried to do like this like protein supplement thing to like help you get fit, and there's this hilarious picture of it's supposed to be like a before and after picture of him after taking this stuff to get buff, and the only difference in the before and after picture is that in the after picture he's really red. His skin's like really red. He's just like, he's got like a bit of chub on him, so he's just stood there in the same position, but now he's really red. It's like, get this supplement, you can get red. Mm. Yeah.
Alright, so I'll do mine next.
Yeah, unless anyone's got any questions about the Bohemian Grove. Any of us?
No.
So, the owl thing, is it like close to like what the like Illuminati had, the Owl of Minerva sort of thing, which stands for the same
Yeah,
sort of
that's
thing,
what-
wisdom
that's-
and shit?
Yeah, it's very similar, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of similar themes going on there. I think it definitely has some sort of connection to the Illuminati going on there. I mean, they claim that it's just a symbol of wisdom, whatever, but like you said, the similarities there with the Illuminati and stuff. I don't know. I think a meeting with these sort of people, there must be something going on, right?
Yeah, it is a bit.
Why are all these men in power meeting up like that and having these discussions and having these talks, and you know, it just seems like, oh yeah, we're just having a fun camp out with friends, but actually they're like talking about the future of the world and like, you know, what their plans are and how to further themselves. But fucking hell, it's weird.
As you say, it's like most of the members are either like the social elite or world leaders. It just goes
Yeah,
to show
literally.
the amount of power
Yeah.
this organization or cult actually might possess, and how much money. I'm guessing like the amount of money that they spend on these plays is just pocket money to most of the members.
Yeah, literally, it's like pocket money, but it's like money for like everyday person could like live off.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it's like 8
also-
times my wage.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's interesting because it's like the whole like sexism angle of it as well. Like, women aren't allowed to be members. They aren't allowed to be there after this amount of time. Like, there's very like clearly this like masculine thing where like, oh, we're gonna continue this. You got to be a man to be a member. All this shit. It's
I
just, like,
I agree with that. I reckon
it's
that's
so
a
old
good, I
fashioned.
reckon that's a
isn't
good idea.
This is for the guy living with a pregnant woman, so you can't blame him.
To be fair though, with you saying that it being a bit sexist, but it's like, the sounds of it's been around for a while when those sort of ideas were around. They
Yeah,
can't, like,
but-
if they're following the old traditions of it, they can't really change much about it like that, because it would
Well, I
change
don't
its
know.
core fundamentals, really.
I mean, the whole thing itself doesn't make any sense 'cause it's called the Bohemian Grove. It was at one point it was musicians and artists getting together and having a laugh, and now it's these fucking like world leaders. It's like, how the fuck did it like become that? You know, it's just these people had an interest in this area, and they just like took it and turned it into something really weird. At points, there's been honorable female members, so I don't know what's going on with it, because I think it's a weird coincidence when you think about the amount of men who are in power in the United States, especially because this is mostly United States based, and they have this group where they're like all in cahoots together. Like, if they wanted to, they could put whoever into power they wanted. Just with all their inside sources, the amount of power they hold is ridiculous. Like, no wonder that like all of their ex-members ended up becoming presidents and shit. They had this whole fucking every elite in the country behind them.
So
It's crazy.
is Trump like a member of it?
I don't know. I didn't see anything about Trump, but I'm assuming he's probably been there. Like, I mean, I'm assuming at this stage, like, as soon as you become president, like, you're just getting in on every secret, right? Surely they're just like, yeah, come here, you can come see the aliens. Come to Area 51. We'll show you the Bigfoots with the minigun arms. Come on in. We'll show you all that shit. So yeah, there's also like a really weird other controversy around the site where the members at one point were basically trying to use the land for logging to make more money off it, and it's supposed to be like a historical site, so they can't legally do that, and they were trying to like make all these little arguments as, oh yeah, we're doing it for this reason, it's to protect the forest and all this shit, and they were basically just like, it's like, people, have you not got enough fucking money? It's like, we can't just have this place as like a nice chill campground. We need to grow some trees here and make some more money off this fucking place. Like, fucking hell. Like, it's just such like excessive greed. It's crazy to me.
I was just reading then, so I thought I'd Google like the owl statue. Apparently it's been like retracted from Google's aerial maps, so you can't see it anymore on Google Maps.
Yeah,
Owl
that doesn't
statue.
surprise me. There's a bunch of stuff like that in Korea and stuff, isn't there? There's like a bunch of stuff that's just, it's all over the world. These government facilities are just, they're literally wiped off. But it's interesting that a place like that that's supposed to be a cheery campground where a bunch of people join up is also blanked off of Google Maps. Yeah. Not suspicious at all. This is where you find out there's just literally a nuke silo underneath that owl. It just opens up and the nuke gets fired out. Wouldn't surprise me.
So I'll do mine now.
Go on, lad.
Mine's a bit spookier than that.
Go on, let's have it.
Mine's about like sacrificial
Is it, Ollie?
cults.
Is it?
Yeah, sacrificial cults, mate.
Children's sacrifice happens there,
I
mate.
thought you said
Called to Alex Jones.
I thought you said a saxophone cult then.
It is a sacrificial
Saxophone.
cult. So there's a thing called a Matamoros human sacrifice cult. In March 1989, a University of Texas student named Mark Kilroy went missing on spring break, whilst on spring break. He'd been staying on South Padre Island, but in the night he went missing. He travelled across the border to Mexico to check out the local pubs where he disappeared. 4 weeks later, his body was found. People reported his brain was found first. It turned up in a black cauldron. It had been boiled in blood over an open fire, along with a turtle shell, a horseshoe, and a spinal column, and other human bones. Weird. His ritual death and dismemberment had been carried out in a service to a religion, a bizarre, drug-demented occult religion, practiced by an American marijuana smuggler operating out of Mexico. Authorities were led to the grave containing Kilroy's body, or at least what had remained of it. After that, the uncovering of more mutilated corpses went on and on. The first day of digging brought up a dozen bodies, all of them buried on the grounds of Rancho Santa Elena. The victims had been slashed, beaten, shot, hung, and boiled alive. The drug smugglers believed that the human sacrifice would somehow magically protect them from being caught by the police. So they like killed people, and then they were like, let's kill more people. They won't be able to get us because we'll be magically protected from killing people.
Yeah, let's do more crime. That'll protect us from them catching us doing
And
crime.
it even made them bulletproof. They were very wrong. The downfall came when a man tied to the cult was caught running a roadblock. The offence worsened when he was found to have weed on him. In search for a bigger bust and looking for clues in Kilroy's case, cops ventured to the farm belonging to the man's family, the Weed Man, the roadblock Weed Man. The infamous Rancho Santa Elena mentioned above, that's where his family was. They found more drugs, but they also found a brutally disfigured body, including the Anglo Spring Breaker, who'd been unlucky enough to encounter the group when they were targeting the next victim. This case spawned from a fearful rumour that tipped the satanic pandemic of the 1980s.
Oh yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
In the 80s, like them thinking everything was satanic.
Yeah.
Like there's a point where they thought like D&D was satanic.
Oh,
Like
really?
if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you're a Satanist. There's literally it's crazy stuff. And there's a lot of stuff with that in the 90s as well, with like Pokemon. People were saying that was a satanic,
Oh, really?
satanic thing. Yeah.
Weird. That cultists were planning to kidnap children for their rituals. The bodies found at Rancho Santa Elena were just some of the casualties. Was El Padrino the Godfather? His real identity, he was a 26-year-old Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo.
Okay.
With the help from a 24-year-old Zara Aledre, aka the Witch.
The
Rolling
Sea
Stone's in-depth investigation of the case. Excellent reading for the faint of heart if you want to read it from the Texas Monthly. They did a story on it, apparently.
Right.
Apparently it's a pretty good read. Pretty good
They
read,
go into
pretty much.
grotesque detail.
Yeah, I think so. Quotes that anthropologist as calling Constanzo the Pied Piper of Death. Constanzo had grown up in Santria religion? In the Santria religion? Yeah, yeah, whatever. But his beliefs had morphed into something far darker of his own design. As he gained more power, Constanzo eluded capture until 1989, when he ordered an underling to shoot him and his lifetime companion. Martin Quintanan Rodriguez gathered rather than being taken alive by police. Aldrita, a well-liked college student just across the border in Texas, who denied knowing anything about the murders, and other members of the cult were arrested and charged with a load of crimes, including homicide. The Killing Shack, where Kilroy and the others were victimized, was burned by law enforcement after being purged of its black magic spirits in a
That's our
special ceremony.
that's our other podcast.
Black magic
Yes.
spirits.
No, the Killing Shack.
So yeah. So pretty much this guy was the Godfather, and he had a cult to try and make him like immortal, pretty much.
I feel like I've heard of this before.
Yeah.
Of,
The Matamoros
this guy.
human sacrifice cult.
Yeah, it's crazy that people get these ideas in their head that like they become immortal and stuff if they sacrifice people and everything.
Yeah.
Some real crazy stuff happens when religion starts getting involved, doesn't it, guys?
Sounds like a lot of it was like centered around weed.
Yeah.
Mainly just because I heard that many times
Oh,
weed
yeah.
was mentioned.
Like I.
Well, yeah, they were like, they had like an empire of like they basically selling weed, weren't they? That
Yeah.
was what he was the godfather of. So Mm.
Crazy, crazy.
Also, a bit in that stood out to me is when you said about the road blocking thing. That
Yeah.
that shit freaks me out. How that happens in America is like, you go down the road, there's a car parked in front of you, and just a guy comes out with a gun. He's like, "Hey, give me your money, or I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill you," and just leave you in a ditch. It's like, it's crazy that like, that sort of shit just happens. I've heard all sorts of creepy stories about weird shit on like country roads in America, where like you'll be driving down a country road and you'll see what looks like a car crash, with like someone laying out on the street with like blood coming out of their head and stuff, and you'll get out and try and help them, and then all their mates will come out of the woods and they'll just rob you. It's like, it's just some real crazy shit. There's like a story of a guy who encountered that. He saw it and he was like, "This ain't right," and carried on driving, and he turned around and he just saw all these people come out of the woods, and the guy who was laying on the road just got up and they were just all staring at him. That shit just gives me fucking
Yeah.
chills.
I'm
thinking
pretty
about.
sure I've seen a video of that, but it was in Russia, where some guys like pretending to have just been run over or something, and it's in the middle
Yeah.
of a city as well.
Yeah,
And he's like, yeah, pretending he's been hit by a car. Somebody stops, and some other guy runs up behind the car, and basically
Yeah.
just drags the person out of the car and gets in the car while the friend just basically
Yeah, yeah.
disappears down the alleyway as he just legs it.
It's crazy.
It reminds me of like the clowns, like
Mm.
coming out of hedges when you're not paying attention and stuff, and there's loads of them. I've seen videos of like clowns just appearing behind people, like groups of them.
Oh hell no
Mm.
with that would give me a heart attack. I
That was
don't like
such a
clowns.
weird phase.
I know.
Yeah.
Do you remember
yeah,
the
I
Santa
remember.
one as well? There was going to be a Santa one. People tried
was
to do
there?
the Santa for Christmas.
I don't remember the
Well,
Santa
It
one.
didn't catch
lot
on.
of-
It didn't catch
A
on.
lot of these guys were like armed and shit though, weren't
Yeah,
they? That's when
like
it started
machetes and
becoming.
stuff. That's why they was just
Yeah.
like, being weird.
Yeah, it's dodgy as fuck.
I've seen a video of like a clown being beaten by some guy that gets out of his car
Yeah.
with a baseball bat and he just beats
Yeah,
him down.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the clown
That's-
tries legging it.
That's the thing, like, especially in places like America, like, you must have some fucking balls to try and do this stuff, because someone could just pull a fucking gun on you.
Yeah.
Like, it's terrifying.
Pretty spookies.
Mm.
Well, they had it here where they're like the if the clowns. I remember in Lou, our town, that the police put up a thing, didn't they? They said they'll arrest you if you're wearing a clown mask.
I remember
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
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 I remember that someone was like,
thankfully I didn't see any.
someone's wearing a mask at the top of town. And like everyone used to go up there.
Me and Ollie used to walk around in outfits at one point in our lives.
Yeah. In our
In-
Grim Reaper costumes.
Yeah, we did it for a few different things. So one time we had these Grim Reaper costumes, we were walking around in them. Another time I had a Darth Vader costume and Ollie had a Batman costume.
Oh, I forgot about the Darth Vader
And we-
costume.
Yeah, we used to wander around the streets in Ollie's hometown and just like weird people out.
We didn't even do anything.
Was-
We went to a couple of people's houses.
No.
Was this during
Didn't do
Halloween, or was this just a
No,
normal
it was
day of the
random.
year?
This was when it was dark.
It was in fucking like winter. It was so fucking cold. I remember being really cold wearing this fucking Darth Vader outfit.
When we used to walk around, if we ever saw anyone, we used to, like, when we was in our Grim Reaper costumes, we used to back into a hedge,
Yeah.
stand still so no one saw
We used to
us.
try and freak him out. Yeah, we used to just like pause and hide in the shadows because we were just like all in black.
Wasn't there a couple of times when people used to walk past us and we used to be like, alright?
Yeah, yeah.
Reese, knowing these two, they did it during Christmas. Something weird like that.
I'll do it anytime, man.
We did go out in Halloween once with the Grim Reaper costumes, but we
Yeah.
used to also just do that shit for no reason, just on random nights
Just
in like
yeah,
in like a little Cornish town where there was like not
a
really anyone
thousand-
around.
1,000 houses, probably.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
thousand. Yeah,
And then I was just
population.
like, if you occasionally see someone walking around and then just be like, "Oh, you right, mate?" Just like dressed up as a fucking Grim Reaper or Darth Vader or some shit.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, when I was driving home from work, I saw Superman walking down the street. Well, he was walking down a hill, basically. I was stopped at some
That could
traffic
have been
lights.
just a birthday party, though.
And
Fathers
as he
for
walked down the
Justice.
hill, the wind hit him perfectly, and his cape was blowing. It looked awesome.
Me and Jordan did so much fucking random shit as kids.
Oh, yeah,
Like we used to,
sure did.
we used to like scream at like the ticket booth guy on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
God.
We used to
Yeah,
shout
that, like-
Gandalf at him.
Yeah, going over Tamar Bridge, you have to stop and there's like a toll.
Yeah.
And we were in the car when my mum was driving, and my younger sister was there as well. And they were getting so embarrassed because we were winding down the window and we were going, Gandalf! Like really loudly.
We got swore at, didn't we, by that one guy?
Yeah, one guy, like when we got into Plymouth, like this one guy like was shouting abuse back at us because we were shouting Gandalf. It was like, we're not saying anything bad, we're saying Gandalf.
Oh, maybe identified as Saruman.
It
Not
might have
Gandalf.
been, to be fair.
Mm.
Oh, good times.
Alright, so who's next?
I shall do mine then.
Go on then.
Next. So
Ask us
mine
with
is
knowledge.
about the People's Temple of the Disciples of Christ, but the
Mm.
shorter name and the more commonly known as the People's Temple.
Right.
So the People's Temple was an American religious movement that was most active between 1955 and 1978 when the group dissolved, declared bankruptcy, etc., and just basically disappeared. The group was founded by Reverend Jim Jones, and hopefully I pronounced his name correctly, in Indianapolis, in Indiana. I had to look on YouTube
Yeah.
how to pronounce that. Weird name. But yeah, so it was founded by Reverend Jim Jones, who as a child, from accounts, there's no actual evidence, but apparently as a child, he didn't have many friends, and he was very largely interested in religion and death, and quite often he would have funerals at his parents' home for dead animals that he would just find. And there is also reports from like childhood associates of his, I guess you could say, that he apparently stabbed a cat to death. As these sort of messed up individuals tend to like doing, I guess.
Yeah. I'm glad you're doing Jim Jones. I know the story.
Back onto the actual religion or the cult. Yeah, the religious cult. I'll call them that. The beliefs combined elements of Christianity with communist and socialist ideologies, which had an emphasis on racial equality, which was quite attractive to many diverse members. There was reported at one point that the half of their actual members were African Americans, which during the time, during like the 1970s, that sort of period, still quite racist, I believe.
Yeah.
Their members basically composed of the elderly and the young as well, and their sort of, I suppose you could say, purpose was for people who just wanted to do good in their lives and help other people. So all in all, the group seemed like, it had a good purpose. But yeah, the leader maybe not
this
so
how they
much.
get you in.
Yeah,
It's like get you
basically.
in, Chris. You're like, oh, racial equality, yes please. Oh, this guy's a bit weird.
Well, this guy's really weird. The group is most known for the events that happened on November 18th, 1978, in the country Guyana.
Is it? I thought it was Guana. No,
I'm probably
you're right.
butchering the pronunciation. Might be Guana. Which resulted in the deaths of
Yeah, I think it is
918 people, were around that number, of which 304 of the victims were
Guyana.
children.
Yeah,
Or
they
again.
were families, weren't they?
Yeah,
all these
basically, yeah. The deaths were part of a mass murder-suicide in a remote settlement known as Jonestown in Guyana.
Mhm.
Hence the widely known event name as the Jonestown Massacre.
Yeah, that's their town. They started this community,
Mm.
Jonestown. It's named after Jim Jones. That's what it's
Yeah.
called, Jonestown.
Yeah, originally the community only had like 50 members before
Mm.
the People's Temple basically moved in,
Yeah.
or at least a lot of the members did anyway. The leader, Jim Jones, he basically committed suicide after the mass suicide by the rest of his followers. It is confirmed that his death was caused by gunshot wounds to the head. In regards to the mass suicide, it's quite disturbing, but if you interested in
Yep.
listening, there is a recording on YouTube. I'm not going to link it.
Uh-huh.
I listened to the whole recording myself, and it is
I have as
quite
well.
gruesome. Yeah,
It is.
I would advise having a few beers at least, just to man up a bit, you know. No, but in all
Yeah.
seriousness, though, it's not nice. You hear the children
No,
scream. It's
yes.
not nice at all.
Yeah, it's not for the weak of heart. It is literally parents, children, all ages drinking poison.
Yeah.
And the results of that. So if you're not into listening to that, don't go and listen to that.
The actual, I'm just going to call them murders rather than suicide, because that's what I think it basically is. The murders
Yeah.
were basically caused, that the members basically murdered each other essentially by drinking a grape flavoured drink that was laced with cyanide.
Yeah.
And obviously you can imagine that's not a pleasant experience drinking that sort of shit, so
Yeah. What doesn't he refer to it as Kool-Aid?
yeah, drink the Kool-Aid.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Is a term that he used,
Yeah.
apparently.
In the recording, he's repeating that, isn't he? So
Yeah.
drink the Kool-Aid, drink the Kool-Aid, just like, you know, yeah.
I mean, what I find more horrible than anything though is the fact that parents could just do that to their own kids, and then
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. The kids didn't have any say in it.
no, they didn't
But-
have any idea what was going on.
No.
From what you can tell from what you can hear in the recording, they're just
Yeah,
confused.
it
and then-
is horrible. It is horrible.
The group was also known to be directly responsible for the murder of Leo Ryan, a US representative, and 4 others associated with him as well. He and a few other members of his little party were basically investigating the town because of reports of people being held there against their will, and he was
Yeah.
basically murdered at an airstrip nearby Jones, well, in the closest city to nearby Jonestown that same day apparently. But I mean, throughout the recording, you can hear, you just know how far-fetched this Jim Jones is, how much he thought of himself. There's one point in the recording where he just
Yeah.
says, without me there is no life, or something along those lines. It just shows how far-fetched and how delusional he was. After the mass suicide, it's reported that it was found by a police officer that was just investigating the area at the time. I can imagine it's pretty traumatic coming across 900 odd bodies just lying around in fields and around the houses and open tents and that. There's plenty of photographs if you want to Google any of this that shows all the scenes, etc., of what
Yeah.
Jonestown looked like during the time, and of
Yeah.
the bodies and that. But reportedly, after the mass murder suicide, the People's Temple basically declared bankruptcy. And after that, yeah, they were basically dissolved. At one point, they boasted that they had over 20,000 members, but in reality, their actual member count is believed to be 3,000 or around that sort of margin. So quite a
been-
decent sized cult, and because of all these events, they are now classed as a destructive cult. And before
Yeah.
September, the 9/11 event, this was the biggest loss of American life, basically. That was deliberately done on American soil. Well, not
Yeah,
American soil,
well,
but
yeah,
against American
yeah.
citizens, etc.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So all in all, I suppose you could say it was a group with a good purpose, but the leader basically led them down to total ruin and
Yeah.
utter
It-
brainwashing.
Yeah, definitely. It's very similar to Charles Manson in a lot of ways, because it's like this person taking advantage of people who were in a bad situation, like say a lot of people, like, you know, African Americans, people who were not doing well, and he's basically offering them quote unquote salvation, you know, helping them out.
Yeah,
But really it's
precisely.
all for his own gain. He's doing it for himself, and that's why the suicide happened, because it's like he knew that it was going to fall apart.
Mm.
So his way out was convincing them that if we all do this, if we all commit suicide together, we're going to go to a better place. And it's like he was saying that, like, oh, we're going to like our own world doing this. We're going to a better place. That's what he was trying to get them to believe. And the worst part about it is the fact that he made all these children, all these families take this cyanide, and then he didn't even fucking do it himself. He shot himself in the head at the end.
Yeah, precisely, like a quick exit for himself sort
Yeah.
of thing.
He just bitched out of it. He wasn't even fucking up to taking the cyanide himself, but he thought that was alright for all these fucking children.
From
It's horrible.
from what I've read of the People's Temple and the mass murder suicide, it only mainly happened because he wanted to basically get Exodus in Russia, to like go to Russia
Right,
with many
okay.
of his members, and they were denied because they wanted to go there at the time because of their communist beliefs.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, they were denied that, so they went to. It is pronounced Guana, isn't it?
No, you said it right the first time.
Oh.
It's Guyana.
Oh, okay,
It's
Guyana.
in Brazil. It's
Okay.
It's in Brazil, and it's like a rainforest in Brazil, basically. They just went and started this community in the forest. in
Yeah,
Brazil.
basically, the People's Temple actually leased the land, and
Mm.
yeah, they were starting the community there, basically, a communist sort of community where all races, etc., were equal.
Yeah.
And but yeah, they moved there basically because they were declined Exodus apparently in Russia, so they couldn't go there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Crazy.
pretty
It is
it's pretty
absolutely crazy.
terrifying, the power
is.
that some people can have just from being quite charismatic, I suppose.
It is. That's what it is. That's what they always say. It's charisma. Like with Charles Manson, that's what they always say about him. He was always very charismatic. You know, he was like, you know, and he used that to his advantage to take advantage of these people who were in a bad place, you know, and manipulating them into doing what he wanted. And then it's the same with Jim Jones. It's very similar.
There was at one point that obviously some members defected and basically legged it from his group.
Yeah.
In 1973, there was 8 young members that were known as the Gang of 8 who defected together. The Gang of 8, basically, when they defected, they were aware of threats to potential defectors. They actually suspected that Jim Jones would send hit squads out after him, basically, which he actually did. He sent out. Apparently, he sent out roughly around 4 to 5. What he called them search squads, but the Gang of 8 referred to them as hit squads. But he sent them out basically to find them. They even used airplanes as well to actually look for them above, from above, because they would obviously apparently they had the information of what vehicles they would drive, etc., like that.
No, the amount of power that this guy had, it's crazy
Yeah, it's
to
bizarre.
think about. And he basically just did it by manipulating people, taking advantage of people who didn't have anyone else. You know, it's horrible.
And this is a guy that basically won a Martin Luther King Junior Humanitarian Award as well.
Mm.
So you know, he did help the community, and it just makes you
That's-
wonder where it all went
Yeah.
wrong.
I think it goes to show that like if you have enough power, when you get to that stage, that's when all your dark shit comes out. It's why you always hear about like fucking all these people in Hollywood nowadays coming out as paedophiles and shit like that, and like
Yeah.
like recently with like Ellen DeGeneres and all that stuff, and it's these people, they get into power, and then with that power they think they're untouchable, and then they just start doing this horrible shit for their own gain, and it's just like, you know, it's fucked up.
But yeah, that's my little part on the People's Temple of the Disciples of Christ.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing to look into. That the whole stuff with Jim Jones is crazy. Yeah, it was a while ago I looked into it, but when you were talking about it, I was like, fuck yeah, this shit, fucking hell.
I mean, if any of you guys, bar Jordan, Reese, or Ollie, if you do decide to listen to the recording of the mass suicide murder, just be prepared. Have a strong stomach.
It's
I-
fucking horrible.
Yeah,
man.
I
It is
won't.
horrible.
I can't stand that sort of shit.
Yeah, it's not for the weak-hearted. Especially, it's just horrible. It's just like children crying and shit. It's fucking horrible.
Nah, pretty much so.
But I mean, what a fuck. Jim Jones is like such a fucking bitch. I love the fact that it's like, oh yeah, all of you could drink this Kool-Aid, and then I'm gonna shoot myself in the head because I'm not gonna fucking take poison. So,
Yeah.
fuck
Almost
off,
like,
dickhead.
ha! You actually drank that? I'll make it
Yeah.
quick for myself.
It literally is. It literally is. Such a bitch.
Yeah.
Such a little bitch move. But also, the Jonestown itself is such a weird thing. It's like this shanty town. And I think they had like a chimp in a cage or some shit there that Jim had as a pet.
Yeah,
he had, like, a
I
pet
read a
chimp.
couple of segments, but I couldn't really find any more info on that.
Yeah, I think there is a picture somewhere. Of, like, he just had like a fucking chimp in a cage and shit because they're just like doing whatever the fuck they want out there in this weird place. They had like parrots everywhere that they had like sort of domesticated and shit that were just living in the area.
Yeah.
Fucking weird, man. So fucking weird. Because I remember reading the report of like them turning up, the police turning up. They turn up, they find all these boys there, and there's just like these bunch of random animals hanging around. There's like a fucking chimp. There's a bunch of macaws and shit. It's like fuck
In
hell.
regards to the chimp, the only info I could really find about him was the chimpanzee was apparently the mascot of Jonestown, and he was called Mr. Muggs.
Yes. Yeah. So fucking weird, man. So crazy to think this sort of shit happened in real life. At that time in the world, like this happened in the 1900s. You know, it's like it's crazy.
So all you shacksters, don't start a cult.
Shacksters.
Shacksters.
Shackers.
Shackers.
You see, there's shackers and there's shacksters. If you're a shackster, look out. If you're a shacker, maybe join a cult.
Yeah, only
No,
shacksters
don't
aren't
join a
allowed to
cult.
make a cult or join a cult.
Or
Don't-
drink a
don't
coke.
join a cult.
Or drink a cult. Oh man.
Go on then, Reese. Hit us up with some knowledge.
Hit me with your knowledge, bro.
So, before I start, out of you lot, or us four here, like, who's religious at all?
I don't think I believe in religion. I think I do believe in some sort of form of afterlife, but I'm definitely not like a Christian. You know, I don't have a label like that shit. You know.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that, but with the old bloody Wiccan stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Very like spiritual.
Yeah.
Can I count myself as a god? Does that count?
No.
no.
Yeah. I think that's cult leader talk actually.
But no, in all seriousness, nah. I don't believe anything like that. I did find it funny that there's religion for the flying spaghetti monster. That was cool. But no, in regards to that, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in an afterlife. I think once you're dead, you're brown bread.
Are you not a Jedi?
Nah, you're just brown bread, dead.
Oh, okay.
So if I said yes, that. Well, first off, I'm going to say I'm not religious at all. I count myself as an atheist. But yeah, if I said the fact that I think religions themselves are cults, would you agree with that sort of?
Preposterous. In a way, yeah, basically.
Yeah. I think there are different people. There are people who, when they adopt a religion, it's everything to them, and it becomes their life. And there are people who are religious because they believe in like the morals behind it or the good ideas behind it. And there are people that just like use religion as a way to take advantage of people, you know. So yeah, I think there's definitely a cult element to religion. Yeah.
Because with religions, they've also got like obviously got quite a lot in common, as you say, with cults themselves. Whether it be with like rituals and other things they do, like the whole getting together for the weekly service thing.
Not
definitely.
to mention getting all the money off the followers.
Yeah, that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
All the donations, etc.
Just like, you know, with the whole Bible, and like if you do this and that, then you're a sinner and you're going to hell. And if you just try and get you to do the good stuff,
Yeah.
that to me it does seem quite cult-like, because obviously with cults they tell you can't do certain things, whereas again you're a sinner and you have to do certain things, be in the good books to get on with the leader. And then with the leaders themselves, they see themselves as either gods or just like this higher power, which like religions nowadays, I'd say they're not as like cult like as they probably used to be. But I do think, like, me personally, I think like the whole Jesus thing, I would say he was probably like a cult leader type person.
Yeah.
And
To a degree, definitely.
because like he went around, you know, being called the Son of God. And obviously back then that was sort of like, someone says that, get a little following together, more people are going to believe it.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, if someone turned like on the streets and was like, oh yeah, I'm the Son of God, God has spoken to me or whatnot, it's just like, oh, lock him up in a psych hospital, you know. It's just
In regards to cults and religions, right? Like, for example, I forgot his name now. The guy I was just talking about,
Jim Jones.
Jim Jones, that's it. He believed his little cult thing was his sort of religion sort of thing. What? Yeah, but if you look at all the main religions like Hindu, Shinto Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, blah blah blah, they're all religions, they're not cults. Nobody ever says that they're cults, but yet they'll say any other religion that's just like not been up too long is a cult rather than a religion. Who defines these as religions and cults? Aren't they essentially the same thing?
Well, yeah, they are.
that's pretty much what I'm saying and what I wanted to
Yeah. Who
talk about,
defines
rather
them?
rather than, you know, doing
It's
what
all-
you did and talking about certain cults. I just wanted to talk widely about religion.
Yeah.
Cults.
I think it is just a matter of perspective, because if you're in one religion and the people you're around decide that, oh, we fucking hate these other people because they're in a different religion, and you get on board with that idea, and then you're like, oh wait, but our religion doesn't allow this, let's start our own thing that's kind of like this but not quite. That's how a cult gets formed, you know. It's like, it starts out with like a good intention, much like with the Jim Jones stuff, and then it leads into this sinister thing because people start using it for their own gain. And religion's definitely got all that same stuff. Like, you know, there are people who get a lot out of it,
and they live a very cushy life because they're a leader of this religion. You know, it's like stuff with Scientology. That's supposedly a religion, but it's also got all these weird connections with people who are big in Hollywood. If you're in Scientology, you meet people who could get you cast you in a film. So you know, there's these benefits to it.
Who's like
it's
the main
fucking
figurehead
weird.
of that one?
Tom Cruise, isn't it?
Tom Cruise, that's the one. Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
Good
yeah,
old
he's
nutty
the
Tom
big one.
Cruise.
I mean, I think there was a thing quite recently. There was this guy. I can't remember what he's called. I have to look it up. But he was in Scientology, and he talked about his experience. He'd left. He'd escaped from it all, and he talked about how it is just manipulation. It is people telling you what you want to hear, so that you believe in what they're trying to get you to believe in. You know, it's like. But I get it. You know, I've been in bad places before, and if I was in a bad situation and the only person who came up to me and tried to help me was religious and tried to get me on their religion, and they helped me, I'd see that in a different light than I do now. You know, I'd believe it. I'd be on board with it, and that's all it takes. You know, it is crazy
they
when you think
know how
about
to
it.
work with that human psyche to get what they want from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Or with hypnotism,
when
pretty
people,
much.
it's like a lot of people in prison become religious when they're in prison, and they adopt these ideas because they believe it's like the only thing they can hold on to that allows them to. This what they do in religion, is that you can be like, especially Christianity, you can be forgiven for your sins. In the modern day world, we don't forgive people for committing crimes. You know, we punish them for that. Sometimes we put them to death for that in certain parts of the world, because that is what should happen in our minds. But these people believe that if they become religious, they can absolve themselves of their crimes, and that's fucked up. You know, that's fucked up to think about. It's fucked up to think about that, like a murderer can be like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm fine in the eyes of God now because I've repented against these crimes. But yeah, at the end of the day, you still killed someone. You still committed that crime.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any difference. But yeah.
Well, like,
Go on.
well, like like cult figureheads, they're all like, you know, what's to say it? They're always seen as like these like deities, godlike things and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's always how like most religions or promotional religions are started. They've always had their like
Yes.
this one person or one thing what they've found,
Yeah.
and then they've just ran with that. And yeah, it's just I just don't like religions at all, really. Like I've said it before, I think in one of the episodes, that if it wasn't for religion, we would be further along in like our scientific progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
With religious ways and that, they have held us back because, like, yes, they'd see it as like a form of like disrespecting God and whatnot. You're not like, pretty much like with technology, we're creating our own gods, sort of thing, is what I'd see it as, sort of thing. Like, we're losing, like, I'd say in the modern day, a lot of people have lost believing in God, and more people are heading towards atheism and science stuff.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of like scientists as well, like especially like I think it was NASA and whatnot. A lot of them are still like avid Christians and whatnot, but for like me and a lot of other people, just don't see God. Like could probably see like Alien or some shit being like what God was seen as at first, but religions in general, cults.
Regards to what you just said then, I also reckon a lot of it is people like myself just not giving a shit about any of that. Like they're just too busy nowadays. Because I seriously think we live in this society where you're either constantly working or you're constantly doing something. You're always on the
Yeah.
move. You're doing something. You just don't have time. You never have enough time.
Yeah.
And you've always
mean-
got to rush with what you're doing.
I think especially in like the UK and America, because there is such this huge wage gap, you're either so wealthy that you don't have to worry about anything, or you're barely scraping by every day. It's like there's no like in between a lot of the time. It just feels like you're one or the other, and I think because of that, like you say, you don't have time to believe in this stuff. But then also, some people in that situation take to God to give them something to believe in, to give them something to hold on to. Like, I think religion definitely had its purpose,
Outlived that
but I don't
purpose.
think, yeah, it's outlived that purpose. I don't think in today's world it should exist to the extent that it does in a lot of places.
Yeah, like,
I mean,
I think you've said it
like-
before, like a lot of the core
Hmm.
fundamentals we have with our laws and what are from.
laws, yeah, that's what I was going to say
Religion, yeah.
about.
I think you've
Yeah,
mentioned
I
it
mean-
a couple of episodes back.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it is as you say. Back in the day, telling someone that if you kill someone, you're going to hell is a good way to stop someone from killing someone. But in today's world, saying if you kill someone, you're going to jail and possibly being executed for your crime is in my opinion, a lot better, more reasonable way to get someone to not kill someone. But back then, that's all they had.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't. The people in power back then were, corrupt. They didn't have a lot of. They were in their self-interest. There weren't things like laws that were fair and based on evidence and stuff like that. That didn't exist. You know, you could just point at someone and get them killed for whatever reason you came up with on the top of your head if you were in power and you had the power to do so. You know, and I'm glad we don't live in that world anymore where it's based on all that shit. And, that's. Sorry.
I'll give you a what if situation.
Mm.
What if, like the People's Temple, the Bohemian Grove,
Mm.
do you think that instead of like Christianity, Islam, etc., back then in the day, all of a sudden the People's Temple popped up, the Bohemian Grove? Do you reckon now in the 21st century they would be classed as a religion, whereas if Christianity popped up in the 70s, they'd be classed as a cult?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Basically, the religions, when they started out in the modern day, if you were Jesus and you tried to start Christianity in the modern day, you'd be called a cult leader.
You really would, wouldn't you? Because
Yeah, 'cause
because
it's the
those
same thing.
religions have been around so long, it's just the norms
Yes.
now for
That's it.
for
That's
a
all it
religion.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
And
the
that's
thing what I
Reese's-
was
that's his
wanting
Reese's
to get
point,
talking
yeah.
about.
Mm.
Because they, as we've said, they are too close to not be the same.
Yeah. And I mean, like, with what Chris said about Jim Jones, he went forward with the idea of racial equality, and that's an idea that people are going to get behind. You know, so same with Christianity saying, hey, don't kill your neighbour for no reason, is an idea that people are going to get behind, you know. People are going to get behind those ideas because they care about that stuff, you know. And that's how we got to where we are. But I mean, Christianity is definitely, not just Christianity, all religions in general, I suppose, have formed how we are as the modern day human. What we consider good and bad are definitely based on religion. I mean, religion taught the idea of like adultery being wrong and stuff, whereas like having sex with multiple partners and stuff like that in a natural sense, it is a thing that occurs naturally and makes sense in a natural sense. It wasn't until things like religion happened that that idea was brought into the world. So when you think about it, like especially marriage is a very it's a very Christian thing. It's a very religion-based thing. The concept of getting married, you know, so it has all these backgrounds, and these are big parts of modern society. And we don't think about them as being like a particularly religious thing. Like, I mean, like Christmas, for God's sake. Everyone celebrates Christmas, but we aren't religious. And it's supposedly a Christian holiday, even though it's based on pagan traditions. But you know,
Well, Christmas
That's
has gotten more into
interesting.
capitalism, money-based
Mm.
thing now. Same with like all holidays.
definitely, yeah.
It's like over
mean-
here in England, we rarely did much for Halloween, but then all of a sudden it's
Yes.
become quite Americanized.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even in our lifetime, especially. Like, I remember when we were kids, there wasn't anything around for Halloween. Whereas nowadays, you go into shops and there's Halloween stuff everywhere. And it's
Yeah.
definitely changed. And the driving force behind that is, as you say, it's money. It's not, you know.
See, I
Same
remember when I was younger, it was more of like making your own costumes for Halloween and going out and just
Yeah.
getting sweets, and that was it.
I remember dressing up as Treebeard once.
Okay.
I literally cut up a box, put it over my shoulders, and got me mum to like sellotape all the
tree
twigs
tree.
and leaves to me box. So I was walking around as Treebeard.
That sounds
Oh,
amazing.
fucking hell, Chris.
Here's one for you, Reese. Have you noticed? I'm no expert on religion, especially Islam, but like in the Middle East, if you commit adultery or something, I don't know if this is true or whatnot. Could be wrong. Please shout me out if I am. But you get stoned or something. You get stoned to death. Or if you do any bad crime like that, like speak out against the monarchy over there. Yet people don't see
Yeah.
that as like a irrational action. They see it as like a normal action. But if a cult did that, my God. Well, I mean, if Jim Jones existed back then and he did a mass suicide every year, in the 21st century, it wouldn't surprise me if people saw that as normal then.
Well, here's a crazy thing to think about. If Jim Jones had succeeded in what he wanted to do and didn't just fuck the whole thing over and become bankrupt, that suicide wouldn't have happened. He could still be very prominent today. He could be the modern day equivalent of Scientology.
That's very true.
Like, you know, it's crazy to think about. You know, it's these little things. If it went this way instead of the way it did, there'd be a completely different person today. You know, and that's scary to think about, because it's scary to think about how these people in power, based on one decision, they can change how all these people's lives are affected. And you know, that's what happened. All these people died for no reason because Jim Jones was scared.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it like that way. So
But it is fucked up what you were saying about in other countries. I mean, I believe it's still happening to this day, but I remember learning about it in school, in particular, how in some countries, if a woman is raped, she can be put to death for that, for the crime, and the man will go off scot-free.
yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's considered against the religion ideas, the fact that she's had sex with another man. Again, I feel like I've definitely had a rant about this in the past, about how men seem to have this fucking thing where they have to have this superiority over women. We can't be equals. Men have got to be better than women.
Well,
That's very prominent in religion. Very fucking prominent in religion.
yeah, that's sort
about
of
men having
seems
power.
to be more like modern day now as well. Like it's
Well, it is modern day, but
was,
also
like,
it's
came into fruition. Like I know, like in certain societies, like years and like thousands of years ago, like Spartans, for example, they were seen more as equals. Nowadays, it's just like
yeah.
See, the way I look at it, I feel like we haven't changed at all. I feel like it's just because media reports on it now. We hear about it more often now because we
Yeah.
have TV, the interwebs, etc.
Well, not even media. Just like someone could post something on Twitter, and
Yeah.
that's any person. Any person can report anything.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You just hear about it all the time now. It's just, yeah. Whew.
Well, that
Yeah.
gets into a whole other
Yeah.
idea of the whole thing with media, like having the power. There was a point. It's not so much a thing now. Like I was saying with Twitter and stuff, we control what everyone sees, but at one point, the media controlled what everyone saw, and that's another thing to think about of like having that power divide there. But yeah, I feel like we could rant on forever about this.
In regards to your original topic, Reese, no, I don't think cults are any different from religion. Vice
I don't.
versa. I
It's-
don't believe
it's-
in any gods apart from myself because I'm a legend. Natch.
But
Snatch.
besides Chris being a god, obviously, I mean, I do definitely think that there was a point where religions genuinely did do good for humanity, but I think in today's world they do not fit into the modern environment. I think if anything, like you said, Reese, I think if it wasn't for religion, we'd be in a far better place than we are today. I mean, look at America, who recently made it illegal to get abortions in a lot of states, which is fucking nuts, and all that's based on this religion.
Yeah.
That's just
America is still
Donald
one of
Trump
the
trying to appeal
still
to
one of the biggest,
Christians.
one of the
Yeah,
biggest
and it's
ones.
just, and it's politicians wanting to appeal to certain demographics. And because there are so many Christian people in America who believe that things like abortion are a crime against God, if you, as the president of America, make that illegal, you're gaining a lot of votes there. And that's fucked up that that's a thing that
Yeah,
happens.
see, the
But
thing with
that's the world we live in.
The thing with the abortion thing is, though, I don't understand how that is sort of, like considered bad in religion, because like abortions is more of a modern thing than when religion first came about.
Yeah, but it's considered a sin. It's considered sin to have an abortion because they believe that any life is a life and you are committing murder there. But I
Depends
don't
on
believe
how
that.
far
I
along
think...
in the pregnancy.
Exactly, but also I believe that you're a woman, a person, an individual has the decision to decide what happens to their body. If they don't want to have a child, they shouldn't have to have a child. We shouldn't be living in a world where women are being raped. This is in America, where women are being raped
Still
and then
forced,
have to have the
yeah.
child.
That's
That's fucked up. That's fucked up that America, like the biggest fucking country, technologically advanced, anything, or they're on front of fucking everything, that can happen. That's just fucking unbelievable for me, you know? It's fucked up. It's real fucked up.
No, Ireland, in the last few years, made it legal to have an abortion, so not illegal anymore.
Yes, yeah.
As well, so.
And Ireland have always been a bit fucking... I'm not trying to be harsh to Irish people, but there's certain things over there that are kind of fucking pretty backward in modern ideals.
Potatoes.
And if the Irish can figure out that abortion's okay, then why the fuck are they doing it in America? Fucking hell, that is
Right.
so dumb, so dumb.
They've got a bit off topic there, but
Yeah, we need to
Mate,
get
we
back on track.
Probably
always
just-
Well,
do.
we didn't really, because that's relating to religion.
yeah,
So,
but it's
you know.
not towards the cult back,
But
but
don't we always go off topic? Isn't that what a podcast is?
true, we do.
True.
Yeah, we do.
Especially
I
in this
well, I
Edmund
think we
segment,
we at least stayed on topic this time to a degree.
Staying
We
with
didn't
the
read a
end part
random
of religion,
Scooby-Doo
yeah.
story.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Scooby-Doo and the Freddy
Yeah, they're
mystery or
missing out.
whatever it
The
was.
Freddy mystery. They're missing out though.
Mystery.
They're missing out. Anyway, what we
Oh.
Reese, have you done your segment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've touched it.
Cool.
What do you think,
Reese
Ollie?
always calls
We didn't get
debate.
sorry. I feel like Ollie's just been sat there like listening to us
Well,
ramble for a while.
I do. To be fair, there's certain topics I don't
Yeah.
go with, and certain topics I
But well,
click with.
I just want to like get your like opinion on because I feel like you kind of agree with me to a degree, like of spirit. We're more spiritual than
Yeah.
anything, where we believe in an afterlife in the form of like ghosts and all that sort of stuff. I definitely believe in that.
I think to a degree, like
yeah,
carry on.
I believe on, I feel like a lot of scientists believe a similar thing on a scientific level. The energy that is used to operate a human brain, a human, that energy has to go somewhere when we die.
Yeah,
It doesn't stop existing. That's not how
but I
it
also
works.
think things are tethered down by anger or sorrow. So like,
that like emotions have power.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, if
And
something
I agree with
happened,
that, yeah. And it does have power. It does have power because I mean, if you're depressed, that has an effect on your health,
Yeah.
on your physical health, and that's all mentality based. That's emotion based.
Yeah.
So, it's scientifically true that emotions have power over physical things that happen to a person. You can't disprove that. That's scientifically true. So, on our basis, like what we're saying, what you're saying with emotions having that power, they definitely do, and you can't make an argument against it.
yeah.
End of. But yeah, I think you're quite similar in views to me on that sort of thing.
No, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I just wanted to get your opinion because I felt like the three of us were just sort of going off on one there, and you
It's
were
fine.
sat there like.
So, with the topic of it, with what I said, that religions are pretty much cults. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Of course, yeah.
Mm.
Like I had a guy come into the restaurant yesterday,
Mm.
Dave, a couple of days ago, right? And I was all fine with it. I was listening to him and stuff, but the stuff he was going on was crazy. He was Christian, and
Yeah.
I'm fine with religions. I'm fine with people being religions, but
Yeah.
he was like trying to force it onto me.
Yeah, that's fucked up because that's. You shouldn't. Do
And
that
he was
shit.
like,
I mean,
you should go
you're welcome
check
to have
out,
your
you should go
opinions.
check out the chapel down the road and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like,
Mm.
this is what they teach. And then he was like, doing some verses and stuff. And then he was saying how his daughter was over in Australia,
Mm.
and that Australia was just before the virus started,
Mm.
something like that. But
Well, that Australia are very near to Asia,
yeah.
and that's where it all started. So,
But I'm just saying
yeah.
the fire and COVID was around the same-ish time.
Yes.
But this guy was like, oh, I prayed for safe travel and stuff, and like his flight had to land somewhere else. He didn't go through Asia because of the virus
Mm.
before they knew about the virus, kind of thing. He went there and it was all the fires were still happening, and he flew there, and the day he landed he brought the rain with him because he prayed to God and stuff. And I was like, what?
That I hate that because that's such like egotism. He thinks that because he prayed to this god that he believes in, he brought the rain.
Yeah, because it was
It's like, that's
raining.
fucked
It was
up.
raining in England when he left.
Yeah.
He- With
like,
that as
these
well,
people-
it's you know, when someone goes in for a surgery and then they come out, the person's fine after the surgery, their family and relatives would like thanking God and whatnot for it. It's just like,
Yeah.
thank the fucking surgeon who did the fucking
Yeah.
surgery.
Like I get it. I
Thank
get
the
it. They
fucking
believe,
guy
like,
that dedicated his life to that shit.
could-
Don't think some fucker who doesn't exist.
it could be like, because like, you can believe in stuff, and you could be like, oh, God gave me the strength, or I bought these crystals. I'm gonna have it in my back pocket for good luck today. I get it. You can have something that
Yeah.
will make you feel better in
It's
your
a
mind.
coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's a coping mechanism,
Yeah.
and I think that those are a good thing to have. You should have things that you
Talismans.
use to help you.
Yeah.
And if religion does help people in that way, that's good. I think that's a good thing. But I don't think it's good when people use religion to their own advantage, when it's used to manipulate people. That's when I think it's bad.
Yeah.
I
But
also don't like when, as Ollie was saying, people who believe in it try to force it onto people who
Yeah.
don't.
He was talking about all the George Floyd Trump stuff as well. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then he was like, if all of the Americans repented, and he was like doing all the like, but I don't know what chapter it was. He was like,
yeah,
people-
yeah.
forgive each other and repent, everything will be fine. God will forgive. They'll be let in and stuff like that. And I was like,
Mate,
okay.
you're literally saying about like probably the most prominent place in the world with Christianity is America.
Yeah.
You're saying that they need to repent. They're the ones who are fucking repenting.
But
But it's not making any difference, is it? You know, it's like it's such bullshit. It's like basically they're saying if this thing that's impossible to happen happens, then everything will be okay, and I believe that. It's like, okay, good for you.
he was like, oh, I'm at the end of my life. He was like, I don't know how old he was. He was probably 70, late 70s, and he was like, your generation, he was like, your generation's kind of what's the problem. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, man. I'm like,
be fair,
I'm
it
like
is.
27. Oh yeah, it kind of is.
Like
Also,
a lot of these
when
protests
it-
were going on are from our sort of ages and
Oh,
below.
but the thing is with the protests, the protests get me so annoyed. Like, I get it, but
Rotation,
like,
peaceful protest.
yeah, like people like. So there's people that protest genuinely. There's people that do it for like to start shit up,
Yes.
and then there's
yeah.
people that do it for clout.
Mhm.
So say like I don't know. Let's say like I don't know, PewDiePie. No, let's go with some.
Yes.
Yeah, he
Well, just say a generic internet
yeah, someone
influencer,
with
as they're now known.
some following. If they went
Yes.
and was like, I'm here, I'll Facebook Live it, I'll Instagram Live it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here, follow me, let's get it done. Kind of like to like show that they're putting in effort with the world.
Yes.
That bugs me.
Well, yeah, because yes, they're bringing a message that is a good thing, but also in doing that, they're attracting people they wouldn't usually attract to their content and
Yeah.
potentially getting followers.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing there.
It's the same
So,
with
yeah,
people
it's-
doing these good deeds of like feeding the homeless, but then recording it and putting it online, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah, you don't do it. Yeah.
I fucking hate those videos.
if the
I
camera's not
fucking hate
rolling,
them.
are you still helping them? Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we live in this world where we seem to believe that you have to like have this fucking, you have to tweet about everything, you have to put it on Facebook, you have to prove that it exists. I remember like when me and my fiance, when we first started dating, she wanted to put everything on Facebook, and I said to her, I was like, I don't want this on Facebook, I don't want to keep doing that, like I don't use Facebook anymore. And I said it's because I want to live in those moments. I don't want to live that moment because it's something I can post on Facebook.
Yeah.
I want to live that moment because it's something I want to do.
I get that. I
You know?
completely get that.
Yeah, if you're like doing something so you can post about it online, what is your life?
I get
You know,
like
you
if you
need
go on
to-
holiday and you post like hashtag blessed in Japan, like I'm cool with that. It's like when you're like rubbing in people's
doing
faces.
it, yeah.
Like that's why I said to April, right? I'm like, I'll happily post about our child
Mm.
every so often, but I don't like me and April. We struggled for a while to get pregnant, like a year and a half. But I don't like rubbing it in for people that don't do it or can't have it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got a good perspective there. I mean, there are people who
Really struggle.
can have children.
Yeah.
I mean, there are literally people who can't.
Yeah.
You know, they are unable to, and those people seeing that are going to feel shit about
Yeah,
it.
of course.
And that's why I stopped using Facebook, because I hated seeing people posting shit about the world. It's why I don't follow the news a lot of the time either, because a lot of it's just bad news that brings you down. You don't need that in your world, unless it's like directly affecting who you are today, like coronavirus, for example.
Yeah.
If it's something that is literally something you have to be careful with, then yes, fair enough. But I don't need to hear about, oh, Trump said something and came across as a bit of a dick. It's like, yeah, I know he's a bit of a dick. But that's going to make me feel shit.
Yeah.
So I don't need to see that every day, you know? It's like, I think in some ways, our modern day media and what we have access to so readily is a good thing, but also I think it does have a lot of disadvantages, especially for mental health. I think, especially, I don't know, I think the UK and America and like most of like, you know, the most advanced places, I think there's still a lot of stigma with mental health stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, in America, it's very much a premium thing because they don't have free healthcare there. You have to pay if you want to get a therapist, and I don't think that should have a pay gate on it. I think everyone should have access to mental health consultants. Everyone should have access to a therapist. That should be a thing that, with us, with our free healthcare, is made readily available. And it is to a degree here, but it isn't as good as it should be. But yeah, I think that's, you know, because of how easy it is to see everything, we need these other things to help back that up, to make it acceptable, you know? You need to have support so that you can see everything that's happening in the world the way it is, you know? But yeah, sorry,
told me to keep
That's
rambling.
Alright, I think I'm going to call it here, though.
Mm.
Alright, thank you for
I
tuning
think it's a
in,
pretty good
boys.
episode.
Yeah, it's been an alright episode, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I think
pretty
we.
cool.
Yeah, it was quite a long one. I think
Nah,
we
it's
actually stayed on topic for the most of
Yeah.
it. So yeah,
That's alright, that's fine. What episode would everyone like to do next? More paranormal?
to be honest. Oh.
Cryptid?
I'm going to mention this. Sorry, can I just quickly mention that Joe actually said to me about doing cults a while ago, okay? So in the last episode when I suggested cults, that was basically me suggesting the thing that Joe suggested. She keeps going on to
You're
me
going to get
about that,
beaten
so
if you
I'm
don't
saying
speak about it.
it. She's laughing over there right now. Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah, we can have a little talk and discussion afterwards. What we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall I ask Joe for suggestions? You might ask a good one.
Mothman. Mothman, episode 11. Mothman. Maybe.
Man, morph.
Alright, so leave any questions below in the comments if you have any questions or any
Yes.
ideas of what we could do next.
Yes.
I have started streaming on Twitch now,
Mhm.
so you can catch me on there. It's twitch.tv/OllieTobbles. There'll be a link below. I'm going to start adding my, is it called Linktree?
I don't
It's
know.
like a mass link website to show everything. I'll
Oh,
start putting
right,
that in
okay.
the descriptions as well. Thanks for joining, guys.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to try and start doing a bit of streaming as well, but probably not as well, I don't know. I'm going to do different.
You can try. You can put an effort.
I'll just be a guestie on the show.
You can be a
naturally.
guestie. You can be a hostie, a co-hostie.
Yeah. Well, we're putting more stuff out there. Is basically what we're
Yeah.
saying. You can catch us doing more stuff if you want to, if you have an interest to do so.
Yeah, so there'll be two of us streaming. You'll be able to catch both of us probably speaking to
Yeah.
each other on each stream.
Yeah. Ollie still can't spell weird though. So
I
just keep out for that.
sometimes. I get the I and the E the wrong way around, okay?
I know. It's easily done.
Whenever I spell
It's
it
just
wrong.
funny that the stream we're currently on is called The Weird Shack.
Ah!
episode 10. Spelt wrong.
Yeah, I know. I did it quickly, okay?
I'm not trying to have a go.
right,
It's really funny.
Yeah, I've changed it for the last 4 seconds, okay? It's alright, it's cool. No one else mentioned it. Right, so
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, no, you go ahead. You end the episode.
yeah, so yeah, I'll end it here. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
See you, Shackers.
Reese, do us a sweet
What did-
do us a sweet outro,
Wait,
Reese.
wait, what did Chris call Shackers again? Shackers.
Shacksters.
Shacksters.
Baby.
Shacksters.
The shacks.
See you
See you,
later,
Shacksters.
Shacksters.
See you, Shackers.
See
Reese.
you, shackers and shacksters later. Bye.
On the flip.
Shaft.
Bye.
Done.